This is Spreaker Web Radio.
That's brand new Steelshine right here on your classic metal show, featuring our good friend Dave Henzerling on guitar and our other good friend Sean Sheldon on lead vocal. And Chris, you wouldn't believe it. Guess who I have on the phone?
Sean Sheldon?
No. It's our good friend Dave Henzerling. Welcome back to the Classic Metal Show, Dave.
Hey, I'm pleased to be here, and I just wanted to say welcome back to Chris as well.
Thank you, sir. I much appreciate it. Welcome back yourself, man. I've been missing your big cock for at least 2 years.
Yes, you guys have spent a lot of time massaging the big cock.
That's right.
Giving the big cock some love.
I don't even know if I want to comment on that. I'm feeling very, very effeminate at this point.
Yeah. But you know what? It's such a great joke, and there's so many things you can do with it that it's like any of the funniest bathroom jokes you've ever heard. They just never get old.
Well, I actually mentioned the fact that you were going to be on the show this evening to someone who isn't familiar with the Classic Metal Show. And I mentioned the fact that you've been in King Kobra and your new band Steelshine and Big Cock, and she looked at me and she goes, their band is actually called Big Cock? And I said, yeah, absolutely. He goes, oh my God. That was the only reaction I got was, oh my God, as if she was actually looking at the big cock.
Well, the funniest thing is I get two polarizing responses. It's either the best name in the world that they've ever heard, or it's the absolute worst, and we're just a bunch of stupid douchebags. But I can't really tell you which one is which.
Sure.
I'll go with the first one.
Okay, thanks.
Nice. Well, Dave, it's been a while since we had you here on the show. We had you here, well, when you released your last project. What was the name of that again?
Motherload.
I don't know. I've done so many, I can't remember myself.
Well, where you
it was probably Tunnel, right?
Yeah, that's it. Where you had the knockoff Robert Mason sounding guy.
I'll have to tell Robert you said that. He'll be thrilled.
Robert is a absolutely phenomenal vocalist. I like that guy a lot. Not only is he a nice guy, but he's a phenomenal vocalist. I mean, there's no two ways about that. And I was thinking, I'm going to do a little commentary here, Dave, so you can jump in anytime you like. But I often think about guys like Sheldon or Sean, as he's known now. But
oh, first of all, who in the hell is Sheldon?
Sheldon is Sean. Sean Nichols is Sheldon Tarsha.
I've never heard of that person before.
Oh, okay. And Robert Mason, in his own right, this guy's been around forever. Obviously, he was involved with George Lynch and did the Lynch Mob and did the 3 Big Cock records. And he was in, what was it? Was that Peace? What was that? What was that other band he was in the 90s?
One of those. Driving and Crying or something?
I don't know. They had that song Peace Pipe. All I know is that.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, a guy like him, who is obviously very talented, never made it into what you want to call to become a household name, where he clearly deserves that kind of recognition, if you will. There's a lot of singers out there, a lot of bands out there that don't even have a quarter of the talent that you yourself, Dave, have, as well as the singers that you've chosen for your projects. Yet you don't get the recognition that you deserve. So that's my little commentary and ass kissing at this point.
Well, the interesting thing about recognition is it's such a loaded word these days anyway, because it's like I could go and talk to my kids and say, isn't Bon Scott great? Wasn't he the greatest singer for the greatest band? And they wouldn't know who the hell I was talking about. You know what I mean? Everybody exists for a certain window in time, and then after that, it's all just, historical fodder anyway. So, sure. If you get your moment in the sun, which all of us have, some of us get 15 minutes, others get 5 or less, and some get, 16, 17, 20, or in the case of the Rolling Stones, 35, 40 years, but you can count those guys on one hand, then, you just got to count your blessings and say, isn't this great?
Sure. Well, Dave, obviously, man, you've got the new project Steelshine, which, to me anyway, sounds, pretty much in the pocket that you've been in for the last, 7-8 years with Tunnel and with, the Big Cock records. What makes you decide? I guess this is a two-parter. One, what makes you decide to keep doing it? And two, how does it even, is it just now a labor of love considering where the industry, has pretty much gone to shit at this point?
Well, I mean, you'd be surprised to know that even guys that, have had a lot more success than me and have made a lot more money, continue to play music because when they were 18 or 19, they loved playing music. That was the thing that they started to do anyway, before they ever did anything or they ever did anything substantial or they made any money. And at this point, we all keep doing it because we like making music. I found that, after I started doing the BC stuff, the Big Cock stuff, and working with Robert and, putting the songs together and starting to really get back into the music thing again, that, I saw that I was continually getting better the more that I worked at it. So I figured, hey, anything that you can, force yourself to do and you continually improve, and it's not only a labor of love, but it's a test of your own perseverance and talent. It's a good thing. So, the money comes and goes. Some years you have more, some years you have less. But, if you like what you're doing and I like what I'm doing, then there's no reason to, kind of look at it in a subjective way that, hey, am I supposed to be doing better or a more household name than I already am? You know what I mean?
Sure. Is it frustrating though to have to start another project? Because obviously you were making some pretty good headway, with the Big Cock stuff, and then then obviously Robert goes to Warrant, and you're left without a singer, so you get the Robert's twin brother to sing for you on the one record, and now you get Sean Sheldon, who obviously, is a great vocalist in his own right, but it almost, where you clearly had songs and you were going in the right direction, it really kind of makes you start over. Is that frustrating to somebody like you that's been doing this for, 25 plus?
No, it's not frustrating at all because it depends on what your end goal is. I mean, these days, I find it's a lot more satisfying to write the music and make the records and to, try to get them out there for people to listen to than to sit there and say, well, I've got to have these 4 guys or 5 guys together and ready in a moment's notice to go out and play gigs, because as you probably know, financially it's just so difficult to keep that kind of thing, the momentum of that running. So, the whole idea of a band is sort of a different notion for me anyway. You know what I mean? It's like doing the most recent project with Sean and then the drummer who was in Big Cock, John Covington, is that, we all kind of did it because we liked where everybody else was going and we wanted to, put together some music. Whether we say, hey, this is a band and we're going to go out and play shows and all that, that's a completely different story and a whole completely different, thrust, as you will. You know what I mean?
Sure. I like how the fact that you were using the band name Big Cock and used the word thrust in the same sentence. That was
right.
very provocative.
That was done on purpose. Yeah. I'm still thinking along those lines. You know what I mean? It's you can never get away with it.
Well, very good. Well, Sean Sheldon, as we like to affectionately call him here on the Classic Metal Show, he actually wrote and produced and performed the Classic Metal Show theme song.
Right, I know that.
And how did you come across Sean Sheldon, and how did you select him for this Steelshine project?
Well, that's an easy one because a couple years ago, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and some of my old high school buddies are in this other band called Icon. You probably heard of them. They're
sure.
like an 80s rock band. And so I went to the NAMM show in January a few years ago, and which is a music trade show in Anaheim, and went up to Hollywood and happened to see Adler's Appetite playing at the Key Club one night. and I saw Sean singing. He was the singer, and I was totally blown away because he was doing all the Guns N' Roses, the Axl songs, hitting every single note perfect, and never getting tired over singing all those songs for like an hour and a half.
Right.
And I go, oh my God, this guy's amazing. So, you know, a little bit later, I was talking to my buddies in Icon, and they were thinking about doing some stuff, and I said, you know, I saw this guy out in Los Angeles, and I think he would be perfect for Icon, and, you know, if nothing else, he can sing all the old stuff, you know what I mean, because they just don't make guys like that anymore. So,
yeah, I heard they closed that factory down. I think it was in Burbank, and they closed the factory down where they made guys
exactly.
like that, you know, so... It used to be a branch of the Skunk Works, I think. So, but go ahead.
But Sean started playing in Icon, and we did a couple shows. I actually just, you know, since they're my old friends, I just kind of hung out with them and played bass. You know, they didn't have a bass player, so I wasn't even playing guitar. And we did a couple shows and got to be friends. And you know, Icon they haven't been really doing that much. So, you know, when they do some shows, we would do it. And, you know, then it'd be 6 months of doing nothing, you know what I mean? And I'd be doing whatever my projects were. And I called up Sean, you know, late last year, and I just said, hey, I got a bunch of new songs. Are you interested in checking them out? And he said, yeah. And he just, you know, sang the crap out of them and did a great job. So I'm thrilled. But yeah, I've known Sean for a couple years, and, you know, the reason we know each other is through the group Icon.
Well, I just want to let you know, Dave, that we collectively here at the Classic Metal Show discovered Sean Sheldon first, and actually I'm going to have to speak to you off air about the royalties and the digital downloads for Steelshine, because, you know, had it not been for the CMS launching Sean out into the public, no one have ever heard of this guy.
Well, it's interesting because when I met him and we started talking, another interesting story with that is in 1988, King Kobra, when we were off of Capitol Records looking for another record deal, we did a set of demos at a studio in, I think it was North Hollywood or Burbank, and years later I come to find out that the studio that we did those demos at was Sean's dad.
Right.
So Sean would have been, I don't know,
a toddler?
12 or 15 or 19 or something like that. So it all comes full circle, you know what I mean?
It's a small world in the music business.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, another thing, you mentioned King Kobra there, and I didn't get to talk to you, you know, for the release of this last King Kobra record. I know that you guys probably, you know, you guys more or less did it for a record. You didn't really plan on touring or doing anything with it outside of releasing the music. What is your thoughts on the end product of that? Are you satisfied with that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Frontiers liked it enough to have us do another one. So as a matter of fact, I'm working on the second one with Carmine and Johnny and Paul right now, and we'll probably be putting out another one for Frontiers sometime next year. As to whether we'll go out and play, I don't know. It's sort of up to Carmine's schedule, you know, if he's not playing in another Cactus reunion or Veil of Fudge reunion. So
Right.
I had to throw that in.
No doubt, man. Is that something that you kind of want to do? I mean, do you actually want to, you know, get back in the bus and drive around the country, even if it was just a, you know, 4 to 6 week type of a run, or is that really not interest you at this?
Since you guys are friends and I speak my mind and freely now, the answer is like, hell no, I don't want to get in a bus for 6 weeks with a bunch of 50-year-old guys. I can think of a lot better ways to spend the summer, you know what I mean?
Right. Sure, man. But at the same time, though, do you sometimes, when you do a project like that, now, I mean, obviously Frontiers want you to promote it and whatnot, do you feel like you can ably promote it and get it out there to the fans that are still interested without actually doing that, without actually taking it to the clubs and whatnot?
Well, the interesting thing is it doesn't really matter, because aside from you know, shows like you guys who are, you know, keeping it alive and on a different extent, guys like Eddie Trunk, that are kind of, making sure that all us old guys aren't forgotten. I mean, that's the audience. So, I mean, interestingly enough, me and my friend went to go see Vinny Appice's band the other night, Kill Devil Hill here in Phoenix, and it just, here's the drummer from Dio and Black Sabbath and the bass player from Pantera, and there wasn't a heck of a lot of people there, and I was thinking, it's not really their fault. They don't really have a record company that's promoting them. They're not on the radio. I mean, they're not in the public consciousness. The only people that would know about it would be, the diehard fans. So
Right.
that's the way it is with them. That's the way it is with me and everybody else. I mean, it's a little different for the larger legacy 80s bands because to a certain extent their brand name has never, gone out of favor. I mean, if
Right.
you look at Bret Michaels or Poison and stuff like that, he's done all the reality TV shows and he's still in the public eye. That's today's radio. But other than that, you would never hear anything from any of these groups, if it was not for you guys. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, believe me, we know that. That's why we're here.
Well, no, it's great, and it's a good outlet for people that are interested in listening. But we're not, we're not living under any false pretenses by thinking that everything we do is going to be the next big thing. We do it because we love to play music, and we're hoping that there's still some people that are listening, and we're happy if they like it. You know what I mean? And if there's a call for it, then yeah, I mean, we'll go out and play shows and do that. And sometimes there is, and a lot of times there is not. So, I'm one of the ones, fortunately, that doesn't depend on being in a van, with 4 other 50-year-old guys for 6 and 8 weeks on end to make ends meet. You know what I mean? I can pay my mortgage in other ways.
Right. Let me go into that a little bit without actually getting into what you do outside of this, unless you want to talk about that. But, at what point, I mean, I'll go from myself personally, who owns a business, very similar to what you do, outside of doing this and other things. At what points do you feel yourself where you got to say, wait a minute, I'm infringing on, my moneymaker versus, the music, or vice versa? I don't know which one for you makes more money. I know for me, my personal business makes a lot more than the zero I make doing this. But, I think you know where I'm going with this, though, man. It comes to a point sometimes where you say, okay, I got to stop putting so much time into this because it's taking away from, my bottom line. Do you have that at all, or are you a better organizer?
No, I mean, I've long past reached the point where I realize there has to be a balance no matter what. I mean, look at it this way. If the only thing that I did was, play guitar in rock bands, I would have to take a hard look at myself anyway and say, look, this business is not that big right now. I would have to branch out and be doing something else anyway. Like, it would probably behoove me to be, playing guitar with Kelly Clarkson, you know what I mean? Or what one of my friends does is Steve Lamette, he does a lot of music for TV commercials and film trailers and does quite well, thank you, and doesn't have to, get in a bus with 4 50-year-old guys. You know what I mean? I'd have to be looking at it in a different way anyway. And so, I mean, the one thing I could say is when I do want to go out and play, I would go out and play because I wanted to do, not because it was the smartest thing to do business-wise. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I noticed, Dave, that you mentioned the fact that your fellow musicians are 50 years old. Are you age discriminator, or what's your problem? You mentioned that 3 or 4 times.
No, I just think that's what we are now. So I mean, it's we're not 25, we're not 30, we're not even 40 anymore. So. I mean, things are different.
Sure, absolutely. I'm just kidding with you a little bit, but well, you know what, Dave? Since you've been doing these projects on your own, be it Big Cock or Tunnel or the Steelshine, I'm amazed at the quality of the music output that you are involved with, and the fact that you do what you do better than a band that is sponsored by what's left of the music business or corporately sponsored. I mean, what you guys do is always top-notch and amazing, and I got to commend you on that.
Well, thanks a lot. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I found that, you know, as I've been doing this, at least for the last 6 or 7 years, you know, I do a different project, and it's better than the last one. And I go, well, this is interesting. I mean, you would think that it'd be starting to get stale or go downhill, in which case I'd be smart enough to say, okay, it's time to hang it up. But it seems like, you know, I feel that my songwriting's getting better. I feel that my playing's getting better. And so there's really no reason to stop. I mean, if I saw that it was starting to get bad, I think I probably would. So I appreciate that comment quite a bit, and I can say that I'm looking forward to continuing, and until that time comes when it will have to be laid to rest, and probably will be the time when I'm laid to rest as well.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Dave. I went to see one of two of America's most you know, what do you want to call, veteran music acts last week. I saw the band Chicago and Doobie Brothers, and those guys are well into their mid to late 60s already, and they played and sounded like they did 40 years ago. So I just don't.
It's interesting because, you know, they you know, the guys that are still doing it and don't, you know, sort of give up or say, okay, I'm either too old or this doesn't make me any money. I mean, if they're still doing it, they still got the fire. And the fire is what you saw. You know what I mean? You saw guys that are still interested and love doing what they do, and it doesn't matter how young or how old they are. You know what I mean? And there's always going to be guys that have talent, too. I mean, it was clearly the guys in the Doobie Brothers, and you know, they had and still have talent. A lot more than you see these days with a lot of the younger kids. So, you know, my hat's off to them.
Yeah, I agree. So we think we're going to have you as a guest on the show again, maybe 8-10 years from now. So I don't doubt that.
Well, I'll mark it on my calendar.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to your project then, Shriveled Cock, and you know, we'll have you back.
Big Cialis cock. That's what it'll be. or Limp Cialis cock.
Well, you know, Limp Bizkit is already taken, so...
yeah, exactly.
So anyway.
Well, I can tell you that there's still some Steelshine songs left to come. I'm going to probably release everything as a full-fledged record by the end of the year. I did 10 or 11 songs with Sean, and I think I've released 6 so far.
Right.
So... and then next year, I'll have another King Kobra record out, which I think is going to be pretty cool. And so, you know, at least I got this year and next year covered.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Dave. I had Marcy Free on the show about within the last 2 years to promote the Unruly Child release, and I got to be honest with you, she kind of really creeped me out. The last time, my wife is from Michigan, I called up Marcy, this was maybe 2 years ago, and I tried to get together and, you know, find a time when we could meet and say hello, but it never materialized. I got nothing but, you know, good memories of the times we spent in King Kobra, and I can only wish the best. It's very difficult to know what to say, he, she, or it's very strange. Well,
but,
don't get me wrong.
Know, hey,
he was really nice to me and stuff, but it still creeped me out. I don't know why. I just had this creepy feeling the whole time I interviewed her. So it's just kind of weird. It's just a weird vibe, man.
I find it interesting that the guy that put out the Big Cock record and promotes Big Cock has a problem feeling weird about talking about Marcy Free.
Exactly. But you know, there's stranger things, so we just try to do what we try to do.
Right. All right, Dave. Well, it's always a pleasure to have you here on the Classic Metal Show. Tell people where they can find these downloads.
The Steelshine stuff is, you know, you'll find it on iTunes. I may or may not put it out as a physical CD, but I will have the album complete probably by around November. And just look for it on iTunes, or you can go to steelshine.net and check it out there, and I think you'll like the rest of the songs. They're pretty cool. There's a couple surprises left in store. And then, check the King Cobra stuff out next year.
Excellent, excellent. All right, well, we're going to have Sean Sheldon on the show here in a little bit. Anything we should be aware of since we haven't spoken with him in a little while?
He probably will clue you in on everything. He's got a lot of changes that he's gone through the last few years, and he's a good guy and a great singer, and I'm just pleased as punch to have been working with him.
It's kind of odd that we were just talking about Marcy Free, and now you're saying Sean Sheldon went through a lot of changes. Is there something we should know, or
no?
There's no correlation. No correlation there at all. It was just not a subliminal
he's just
thought
busy
process.
Guy doing what I do all the time, and that's a continual iteration of self-improvement. You know what I mean?
Excellent. All right, Dave, you're always welcome back on the show anytime, and I want to end this interview with a song called Devil Moon. Anything you can tell us about that?
This is one of my favorite tunes. I broke out the old mandolin for this and the acoustic guitar, and I tried to sort of channel my inner Jimmy Page Led Zeppelin, so I think you'll hear it.
Excellent. All right, well, go pick up the Steelshine downloads over there at iTunes. Go check out steelshine.net and go get it. It's good stuff. So here it is. This is Steelshine with Devil Moon exclusively here
on your classic metal show.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Neely.